everybody. Thanks for joining us. Let's go ahead and get started here. So you have joined for a First Impressions with Airtory. Joining me here is Julian Frockman and Ashwin Krishna Kumar. So sorry if I slaughtered your name there a little bit, Ashwin. My name is Melissa Chapman, and I'm the founder of Part 2 Consulting. I'm also a co-collaborator with Rob Beeler on all things AdOps Online and Beeler.Tech. So for any of you that have not experienced a First Impressions before, First Impressions is a non-scripted demo with a solution provider. So in this case, Airtory is going to show us their wares, their product catalog, their product suite, if you will, and you have the opportunity to ask questions along the way. So we're going to use the chat box. So please pop that open right now so that you're ready. One of the beautiful things about a First Impressions is you get the opportunity to hear questions that somebody might ask that you didn't think of, right? So I will also be asking questions along the way, and I'll help moderate and pop your questions in as the gentlemen are going through the demo. But please don't be shy. The intention here is that we want you to understand the Airtory product catalog when we get off this call today. So. After the demo, we will be posting this to Beeler.Tech in our new First Impressions library so that you can reference it later or other people in your organization can reference it. So if there are no questions right away, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you, Julian.
All right. Thank you, Melissa, and thanks, Rob. Really appreciate the opportunity. And to all of you people working during lunch or lunch adjacent, appreciate your time and giving me the excuse to wear a button-up shirt. It's a great reminder of what life used to be like and a reminder that I should probably be working out some more. I forgot if I mentioned this, but I'm the CEO of Airtory. On with me, as Melissa mentioned, is Ashwin Krishna Kumar, who is my co-founder and CTO. I'm in Austin, Ashwin's in Bangalore. And without further ado, I will go ahead and share my screen. As Melissa mentioned, if there are any questions as we're going through this, feel free to type them in the chat, and we'll be happy to answer them as we go through. At a high level, Airtory is broken up into three pieces that we'll be going through. One is our ad creation and serving platform. One is our landing page creation and hosting platform. And the third is a self-service solution for publishers to open up their inventory for direct buys to advertisers. So we'll begin with the ad creation and serving side. And so for now, just to get an understanding, can I see a show of hands on how many people know Celtra? Just kidding, I can't see your hands, but I would imagine a few people have heard of them. And often in a vertical, you're not supposed to mention your competitor, but that's kind of the easiest way to show the dichotomy of where Airtory is compared to the rest. So we kind of identify Celtra as an Adobe Photoshop for ad creation. It's enterprise grade. It's certainly very customizable. You can make anything you want, but it's complex and it's expensive, and they have pretty high lock-in fees as well. Airtory is essentially a Squarespace for rich media ad creation. So what we've done is we've built out 300 plus templates across desktop, mobile, native, and interactive that make it extremely easy for you to identify the template you want and upload assets, and then create or export a tag that you can run either via DFP GAM or across open programmatic DSPs. So what I'll go ahead and do is take you through the process of creating an ad and show you a few of our different template options. So to begin with, from the homepage, you can see display or video ads. Within display, we have a few different options. We have mobile interactive, mobile units you can engage with, animated mobile, mobile units with movement. Desktop has both native and animated desktop, and native is where we have our mobile native units. So when I say native, it's not Taboola or Outbrain, it's non-IAB standard units that you'd have to run through a one-by-one PMP or via Google Ad Manager. So for now, let's go ahead and create a mobile interactive. So we'll select that, and then from there, you're able to select what size you'd like to create. So for now, we'll do an interstitial. At that point, you get down to the template level. And so I'll just click through a few template examples. We have scratch off, peel away, trivia, branded video wall, vote, swipe, or click. Not that it's super relevant right now because no one's going anywhere, but we have built our own map tile server. So on mobile, you'd be able to have ads that would show locations near a user, and then they could click to be directed to that location. Two other favorites that we have is our carousel unit, and then this is a recent one. It's an in-banner video survey unit. And so this one's neat in that we have a lot of different answer types. So you can have, single answer, you can have fill in the blank, checkbox, multiple answers, things like that. So for now, let's say we want to make a scratch-off unit. So we'll click Customize. Airtory is meant to be an extremely self-service platform. So we have build guides available for each template. And so when we look at the build guide, you're able to see the two different images in this case that you need and the dimension and file size requirements for those assets. So for now, let's go ahead and make our ad. So we can go in and we can look at the different assets we have uploaded in the system already or upload new ones from our computer. You can see that it's updating in real time. We'll go ahead and put our fallback image in or our underlay image in as well. Again, updates as we make the updates. We'll turn on an interaction queue, which you'll be able to see in a moment. You can update URL, pass through UTM parameters. You can actually put in different trackers, third-party trackers for events. We'll put in our fallback image. Here on the right, now you'll see the interaction queue. So it's a nice gift to kind of drive additional engagement. And we're done. We click export, and we have now built a rich media ad. So what you see here on the left is your base ad tag. And then from there, you'd be able to select which platform you'd like to run it through. So if we want to run it through DoubleClick for Publishers or Google Ad Manager, you'd click that. And if I sent this to one of you and you loaded it into DFB, you would be able to run it immediately. You also come away with a preview URL. And so this can be used to share internally for feedback, or if you're doing direct sales, you can share this externally with a potential client. One other piece. Yep.
Hey, Julian, sorry, just a quick, are they all that easy to create?
Some of them require more assets. So the carousel unit, you have a few more fields, you have a few more images, but yes, the same process remains the same.
So who's the user generally? I realize that it can vary by company, but who's using this tool? Is it an ad ops person? Is it a creative person? Do you have a feel for that?
Sure, it kind of depends. So one of our first customers on the publisher side is Retail Me Not down here in Austin. And so in that case, it's the director of ad operations. So he kind of acts also as a project manager in that he farms out the assets that he needs based off of the build guide and receives them, and he's the person inputting them in. But it could just as easily be someone on the creative team. It could be a standalone project manager. Essentially, as you can see, it doesn't take a specific background or skill set to do this. So it could be an intern who's building this once you spend 30 minutes taking them through the platform, honestly.
Okay. We had a few more questions come in. So the first one is, how in-depth is the survey? So I think that's up to one of the units.
So on the survey, I'm not sure if there's a max amount of survey responses. Ashwin? You might be muted.
Sorry about that. No, there isn't. You can add as many questions as you want.
I'm not sure if that answered the survey question, but if there's a follow-up, we can take that.
Yeah,
okay.
So just to add on to that, in the survey, we have an option to add multiple choice, multi-select, as well as option to enter text answers as well.
Okay, and then we got a follow-up on that to clarify. So how in-depth is the creation of the survey?
Oh, sure. Let me get to that in 1 second. So just to kind of finish this flow of the demo, what we've created here is actually a creative with a placement below it. And so the nice part about this is you can actually make additional placements underneath that parent creative. And so this would allow you to potentially run it across multiple sites within your network, and from there more easily track performance. And you can actually at that point make updates to an individual placement on the creative side, or you can make updates on the global creative. So just wanted to finish that chain off.
Yeah, for sure.
Show you what it's like to create the survey.
Yeah, and the one more question on the survey, as long as you're going in there, is where is the output sent? So kind of the whole package of a survey ad.
Sure. So in terms of the output, right now, just base level, that information is stored in Airtory. And so you can go to that specific placement and you can download an XLS or CSV. We understand in the kind of world of PII and everything else that we live in, not that Google would really, well, I guess if it's running through DFP, you could capture a lot more information. But regardless, we can work with you to set up a postback URL, or if there's some kind of API documentation to send it directly into your CRM, your customer CRM, whatever data collection method you need, we're able to accomplish that.
Okay. A couple of other questions here. Do you support ad server tracking URLs, impression/click URLs, to be specific?
So yes, we do. So we're the ad server as well, but we are able to have third-party tracking in place, and we can also, as I showed on the initial scratch-off creative, we have additional fields on some, but not all, and this is based off of utilization and need for people to put in additional trackers.
Got it.
And we've already had customers using Mode and Double Verify and other things like that as well. So there's not really a problem across those lines as well.
Okay. So, and thank you for asking this, because I was going to ask the same thing. So I know you have 300 templates, but let's say it's just not hitting what I'm looking for. Can you assist with creating a custom template? How does that whole process work if we need something slightly different?
Sure. So there are basically 2 to 3 options there. So first, if you find a template that's close to what you're looking for, but it's not perfect, and you know, the way we work with customers is we view it more as a partnership. So if we're working together and you say, hey, if you can make this tweak to this template, then like this is the campaign that I'm going to be able to run. And then often in those cases, we'll just, you know, do it totally for free. We'll just make the adjustments and suddenly you have what you need. Option 2 is if you find yourself maybe using a competitor or having had a specific template concept in mind that you think could be really successful. So, you know, I'm not sure if they joined, but we had some people from like Expedia or the travel category or other ones where, you know, there's a certain concept that you really want to build out. That's something where we would charge for the creation of the template, but then at that point, you'd be able to use and reuse that as much as you want. And then the last option, and this should actually make it kind of easy for some customers who are currently using competitors, is we built a plugin uploader where you can take the output of what you've built in Google Web Designer, upload it into Airtory, and then Airtory would be able to host and serve the ad on our side too. So that's a way where if it's something totally crazy and you don't want to pay for it, but you have resources who know how to use Google Web Designer, you can do that yourself.
Got it. Well, it's good. Yeah. And if you build the new concept and we get to use it and reuse it, I assume you're also adding it to your library for other customers.
Yes, that's correct. We would charge more on an exclusivity basis.
Fair. Okay. Another question: are the images optimized? For example, if somebody uploaded a 10 meg file, will it reduce it?
Ashwin?
Yes, yes, they are optimized. So for it doesn't matter like what the file size that you upload. Like we'll always refactor to the best performance for faster loading across devices. And then we use various progressive and WebP technology to like make sure that it loads really fast.
Great. A couple more for you here in the same general. Are there specific DSPs the tags can run through?
So I would say it's easier to talk about the places that it can't run than where it can. So as a third-party ad server, we of course have limitations around Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram. If anyone's working on or buying on Amazon DSP, we could run there if we went through kind of the approval process. But besides that, you know, we have AppNexus, Trade Desk, MediaMath, Google. Basically, if someone has a specific question about one, then I can answer it. But we have a pretty long list, and we just keep adding them in as people need it. And besides Roku and Google, the approval process is basically non-existent. They just send us their macros for the tag, and it takes us 30 minutes to add that into our system. We send them a tag with those macros in place. They just run a quick test, and if our impressions and click match, then we're good to go.
Okay. Yeah, so that actually ties into the second part of that question, which is, does your system generate a tag based on those DSPs with the DSP macros in place?
Yes, it does. And so I guess just to go through this, and then we can see that output at the end. Maybe I wasn't clear on the first go around. So at this point, you can go in and you can make questions mandatory. You can allow people to skip them. You can update responses, any of these different fields. And so you can see the different question styles here. So I'm not going to make any changes on it just so that we have time for everything else. But at this point, I'll click export. And so to answer the question, yes. So I'll just scroll slowly through here so everyone can see the different DSPs that we've integrated into. And so let's say we're running with beeswax, we select that, and again, it updated the macros. Let's say we want to run it in DFP. Macros updated again. So makes for some pretty good time savings there.
Great, I appreciate the clarity there. And then we've got one more back to, you were talking about if somebody created an ad using Google Web Designer, can you also import Adobe Animate files?
I don't think we can do that yet, but Ashwin might be able to speak to that.
Not at this point.
But if there were market demand, you probably could figure it out.
That's how it works, isn't it? Okay.
That sure is. Any other questions right now?
No more right now.
Okay, so I'll try to move through some of this pretty quickly just to make sure we have enough time for everything. But real quick, just on desktop, we have a few fun ones like 360 Animate, 360 Animate with a video in there. We of course have, there's a survey somewhere in here and banner video. This is one that I always like to show as well. It's pretty fun for commerce. And so basically it's a hotspot unit where you have a image in the background and you can put multiple bezels across the image. You need to work on the Z index there, but that's easy. But these can actually click out to individual products or other concepts too. So we've got that in there. Also on desktop, which might be interesting, is we have desktop skins. And so with this, you're able to pretty easily compile a pretty high impact unit on desktop. We have some interesting things in our roadmap here to make it even more WYSIWYG, where you can select left column, right column, and top banner section in order to really have something super custom. So you could have video on top and form on the right and scratch off on the left or whatever you want. And then on the native mobile side, a lot of what you see in market plus some other interesting ones we've thought of. So, inline video, mobile wrapper is kind of our take on desktop skin. So sticky top and bottom, if the user swipes out, they're able to have an advanced interaction, whether it's a video, a carousel, whatever else you want. Basically anything you see from YieldMo or whatever else we have, anything that you imagine or want, we can also have. One interesting piece on the native ones that I didn't mention on desktop is that since we have a lot of publishers here, and you can collect advanced PII information, which you can't do programmatically, I think it opens up some other interesting options. So, we have these form fill or email capture units that you'd be able to run on your site as an additional revenue stream. And another thing we've built out with a customer that's using us on beeswax is the ability to run rewarded video. So that's kind of a fun other option too. So, you could do a video and then maybe someone's entered into a sweepstakes or other things. So at the end of the day, the only limit is our combined imaginations.
So back to the skins that you were showing, do they adapt for responsive?
I would say 90% of the time, yes. We do run into sometimes, depending upon what CMS the customer is using, a few tweaks we need to make. But once that tweak is made, then it, propagates to all skins and it's stable from there. So the way we've been working with publishers on the skin unit is there'll be an onboarding time where we just test across the different site layouts and CMSs that they'll be using it on. And once we have that set, then, you can pretty much set it and forget it.
Got it. Any problem with WordPress?
Not sure if we've run on WordPress yet, but I think we'd be able to figure it out if we needed to. Ashwin?
I don't foresee any problems specific to WordPress. Usually, like, it depends on the theme that you're using. So 99% of the time, like, we should be fine there. So the skin architecture itself is smart enough to identify the layout of the page and then like shrink the content to create the gutter it needs. So 99% of the time it should work.
Any other questions so far on display before we move to video?
No, let's cruise over to video.
All right, so we also have video units, largely video with interactive end cards. We have 2 others outside of that scope. So just to show you some examples, video with carousel at the end. Each of these have their own different outclick URL, video with a poll at the end, things like that. One new one that I think is pretty intriguing for mid-roll inventory is our picture-in-picture unit. So you may have seen this on Fox Sports. So the content goes away, the ad plays on the right with volume with a branded background, and then at the end it goes away. So pretty fun stuff there. Just to show you what the creation process is like on one of these, I won't open up the build guide because that's the same. I won't upload a video because it takes a little time sometimes to compress and transcode, but we handle all of that on our side. So this was a star rating video that we actually made for P&G where they were running multiple Mr. Clean ads that they had done in the past on TV, and they wanted to see what the feedback was from users to see what they should run in the future. So how do you like our car? We'll put in our call to action URL and then we'll export. And at the end, you have a VPaid, VAST, or IMRAY tag. And so you can select what provider you want to run it through. And you're good to go. And we're in the process right now of upgrading to the newest VAST protocol, which I think is supported by most connected TV platforms as well. And then the last thing to show on the video side is our start card unit. And so this one's kind of, I don't know if the person from Hulu joined, but kind of like that Hulu, what video would you like to watch thing from, 5 years ago. So you have the branded banner on top, thumbnails on the bottom. Depending upon what thumbnail the user clicks on, a different video plays, and depending upon what video plays, a different end card experience can happen as well. So that's the ad creation side. Any questions there? And if not, we'll move next to analytics.
So we just had one come through. Let me just take a peek here. So what are the specs on the uploaded video? Do you re-encode them on the back end to fit, or do they need to be optimized?
Ashwin, we compress and transcode them, right?
Yeah. We compress the video, transcode them, make sure that it's, we convert that into a streamable format so that we load it as a streaming unit. Yes.
Do all these work on OTT?
Yes.
Well, I would say yes and no. I would say the only unit we have right now is the mid-roll unit. If you're watching it on actual TV, if you're watching it on Netflix on a laptop or something, then you could actually interact with it because a lot of ours are predicated on interacting, right? Clicking out on the carousel or responding on a survey. So right now, mid-roll is probably the only OTT-centered one, but that is a focus of ours in the next quarter, is to identify other ways we can use our capabilities to create interesting experiences for TV-only OTT inventory.
Okay. Any other questions in the video space, gang? I think we're good to move on to analytics.
Cool. So on analytics, this is our corporate account, so our demo account. So there's not much, but you'll see a lot of the standard stuff you see everywhere else. So you see impressions, clicks, CTR, invalid impressions. We have our own heuristic on what we think might be invalid. So it's kind of us raising our hand and saying, maybe you should look at this, but I wouldn't say it's something that would replace a mode or something like that. And then engagement rate. And so engagement rate is unique to each unit. And so on a scratch off, it's what percentage of users started to scratch off, or how many got to, 25, 50%, 75% fully scratched off. So each one has its own information. From there, we have, daily breakdowns, hourly breakdowns, summary, lifetime stats, fallback and failure. Right now we're global, so you can see, the breakdown based off campaigns, and then also an impression heat map. The one piece that's not showing right now because it's on a global view is we have a click heat map as well. So on an individual unit, you'd be able to see where the user clicks on the ad. So any questions there?
Well, we have a more general question, and you can hold an answer at the end or speak to it now, whichever you prefer, which is, if somebody is interested in playing around with the tool, do you offer like a access to a demo account so they can get a feel for it?
Yeah, if someone, I think you'll provide the email at the end, or they'll get it somehow, but it's just Julian@Airtory.
Yep.
And we provide free accounts, so you can use it as much as you want. The platform, as it is, initially is pay as you go based off of CPM. And, if people want to talk about that individually, happy to have those conversations. There are some subscription upgrades that are available. And if we have time at the end, I can talk about that, or I'll just throw it in real quick later on. But yes, anyone who wants an account, reach out and we'll get you on.
Okay, great. And folks, I'll post Julian's email a little later in the chat, or a couple times through here. So
cool. So moving on, one thing, this luckily won't take much time, is we have a complete API documentation for the studio. So not sure if we have any DSPs or exchanges here. A few agencies that kind of operate as an agency / PMP have been utilizing this, and we've integrated this with some DSPs as well. But basically, everything that you need to basically create the Airtory Studio natively is available here. The other interesting piece is there are API calls for analytics. So even if you don't want to use the APIs for rebuilding a native experience, you would be able to potentially use the APIs to pull the data into whatever system you want.
did you build that because a customer wanted it, or because you foresaw the demand for it?
Customer wanted it.
Got it.
But after the first customer wanted it, we've had 3 others start using it. So we've been lucky in that way.
That's great. Okay.
Other questions or no?
Not right now. Anybody have anything on the API? All right, let's roll in.
Cool. So now to just talk briefly about our roadmap. So the things I'm going to go through are kind of scoped out for the next month and a half, 2 months. So first, I haven't talked about dynamic that much, and that's because our current offering isn't something we're happy with, but we're currently revamping it, both for dynamic as well as product feeds. So I know this might be kind of small on here, but just to talk you through it, you're able to build a dynamic decision tree where you can choose location, platform, weather, A/B testing, date and time. And so if we select weather, you can choose from any of those different options. You can add a creative at this level, or if you want to add additional levels, and I'll just read this out because I know it's very small. So at this point, if it's snowing from 12 p.m. to 2:15 a.m. and the user's on iOS in Bangalore, then it would serve a creative. So, for kind of smaller decision nodes, it works okay for it to be manual, but we know that for kind of bigger options, you need to be able to, or like more widespread campaigns with different variations, you need a feed option. And so this is a slightly older version of what we'll have in place, but in the future, there'll be kind of a XLS WYSIWYG experience where you can set up your headers and then export a CSV and then load in your columns. But just to show you kind of how we're thinking about things and what the experience would look like on the dynamic side. And then the last piece that we're really excited about, but this will come in after those first two, is creative feedback. And so we showed you the previous version of the preview URL, but moving forward, you're able to actually add feedback. And so, you can send the preview URL to people, they can provide feedback on it. And you get questions, answers, whatever you want. And the next iteration of that will include kind of a chain of custody of approval. So you can kind of set up specific emails with people, and until the person above approves it, then the person below would not be able to, wouldn't get an email. So I think it's a nice way to communicate in between publishers and agencies and customers, whatever the case may be. So that is everything that we have on the ad side. So any questions there?
Well, there was just one funny question that somebody wanted to know if it actually snows in Bangalore, but I think
that's a good question. I don't think it's that often. Not when I've been there.
With the climate change, we never know.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So I think you've covered my questions, and it looks like you've covered the participants' questions. So yeah, let's move on to landing page.
So I think just in case people have to drop off early, I'm going to skip to Self-Serve Plus first.
Oh, fair.
A little more interesting. So I mentioned this at the beginning of the call, and Self-Serve Plus, if you're familiar with buy, sell ads or Dan ads, is a very similar platform. So essentially the flow, and the goal is a publisher can really take some of the maybe lower size deals, or just create a much more efficient process for their sales and account management. And so I'm right now logged in as a publisher, and I would connect my Google Ad Manager account. So from here, I would sync my placements. And so these are the placements that we have right now, and they're already synced, so we'll confirm. From there, I would be able to update placement name, update CPM and impressions across different dates. And I can also upload a screenshot so I can show the advertiser what it would look like. From there, we would go to the campaign view. And so within campaign view, you can see what's active, what's completed, what's processing, and what's been rejected. And then the last bit is you are able to manage internal users, and you can also invite advertisers. So right now, I know buy sell ads allows for publicly available view, and eventually we could build that out if there were demand. But right now, it's an invite system, so a publisher would need to have the demand in order to bring this in, but you could invite the advertisers and they would be able to log in. The one last piece on this is white labelable, so you'd be able to update logos, colors, everything else, so that it was more on brand. And if there's demand, we could create more cogs and levers to customize that further. So for now, let's go ahead and say I log in as an advertiser. Hypothetically, this could be fully white labeled, as I mentioned. And at this point, let's say that I want to make a 300 by, well, first we'll add targeting. And so for this placement, we would be able to select whatever targeting options you have in place for that placement. And I would add it to cart. And so right now, we're actually updating the creative plugin to Airtory Studio. So I can't show you the creative experience right here, but basically you would just select make new creative, and it would pop up with a studio modal, and you'd be able to create it right there. And so at that point, assuming we had added a creative, you would click review and launch, and then you'd be able to approve it and send it through. And then at that point, the publisher would be notified that there's a pending opportunity, and they can go in and they would be able to preview the ad, and they could approve and decline it. A few things that we have in place in terms of our roadmap on this is first, the ability to have kind of an admin God mode. So if you're a publisher with multiple domains, you'd be able to either have it all kind of combined as a PMP concept, or you could switch between your different publishers to manage it like that. And the same option, at least to buy on more of a global setting, would be available for the advertiser too, if the publisher wanted. Second is the concept of being able to use third-party tags. We know not everybody is going to necessarily use Airtory, so you would hypothetically be able to use a different Google certified ad server to manage this. Third would be off-site purchases. So right now we're integrated with Stripe. We're kind of looking to understand other purchase requirements on here in terms of processing and everything. But we know that on bigger buys, someone's not just going to put down a credit card. And so we would allow publishers to put in information about wire transfers and checks. And so at the end of the process, an invoice would actually be sent to the advertiser, and the publisher would be able to toggle within the system once they get paid for it to be approved, because hypothetically, this is all programmatic guaranteed, so you should be paid up front. The last piece is IO management. So you'd be able to kind of put together a IO template that would get filled in Mad Lib style, where the advertiser and the publisher would be able to co-sign, and then it would be approved. Actually, the last one is the proposal concept within Google Ad Manager. So you would be able to counter the offer from an advertiser, and then they could accept, or you'd be able to start a conversation and actually message back and forth. And then the last piece to touch on in terms of a value proposition that I think is interesting for publishers is that, if you're setting up standard PMPs, then you're paying DSPs and SSPs 20 to 30%. And so if there's a way to take some of that traffic and move it over here, since you already have a direct relationship anywhere, there could be significant cost savings on that. And so Self-Serve Plus is built on open RTB specs. And while we don't have DMP plugins right now, which I know would be the one drawback of running it through this versus a PMP, that's something on our roadmap as well. And if there's demand there, we'd be able to allow for that same concept of data targeting to be pulled into. So that was a lot of talking. I'm going to take a breath.
So I have a couple of questions, and I'm watching the chat there. So you mentioned on the roadmap having the ability to use third-party tags, right? Because somebody might want to use I want to make sure I understand it. They might want to use the self-serve platform for the IO process or the purchase process, but not the creative process. Correct?
That's absolutely correct.
Okay. And then you're talking about integration with Google Ad Manager. Do you have integration with any other ad servers?
Not right now. The only one we've run into is people who use AppNexus on mobile. And so you would just need a customer who wants to do that to get us an introduction, and then we could put that on our roadmap as well. But right now it's only Google Ad Manager.
Okay. As far as, I know you're reworking the connection there to the Creative Studio, but is it safe to assume that any ads that I saw in the Creative Studio, so video or whatever survey ads, all of those could be created?
Yep, everything can be created, and the publisher would actually be able to select which ones they want to make available. So if you only have, a native 1x1 mobile placement, then that's all that would show up, for example. Or if you only want to show 300 by 600s, then when the user clicked through to create the ad, it would take them directly there. And we do know that we have a lot of templates in place, so publishers can also remove templates from the offering. So maybe you only want to have 3 different templates for 300 by 600. That's an option.
That makes sense. No, I like that. So I had one other question that I'm trying to, you mentioned being able to decline a creative, but it sounds like the actual debate on an IO or a negotiation of an IO is on the roadmap, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you can decline to say this creative doesn't work for us, whether they uploaded it or create.
You decline the creative, maybe you think there's a better targeting opportunity, or they set up the placements wrong. Right now it's only decline, but we have the proposal and conversation stuff coming up soon on the roadmap.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions about the self-serve piece? All right, I'd say let's shift over then to landing page, if that's.
Cool. So the last piece we have currently is kind of a separate product set from the landing or from ad creation and serving, although you'll recognize a lot of similar themes. And just to frame the value proposition, this is something on the publisher side. We have multiple publishers using this as part of their pitches to advertisers or agencies, where You know, you may not necessarily have the best landing page for a specific campaign, and you'll see how quick and easy it is to create one of these. So just one example with Retail Me Not, they actually sold a package to Amazon during Black Friday last year that included a landing page because it was much easier for Retail Me Not to create the Black Friday landing page on Airtory versus Amazon creating a new page on their site, which I guess either makes a lot of sense or makes no sense. But either way, it's useful. And on the agency side, you know, some of you will probably run into clients that don't necessarily have the best homepage, the best place to collect data or emails or anything. And so this gives you a lot of flexibility on that front. We'll go ahead and make a new one. It can be Amper HTML5. We'll go ahead and do HTML5. You can do a pre-select layout, but for now we'll build one from scratch. And I don't know if we'll have time or if it makes sense, but we actually have a V2 of landing page builder that's going to be coming up sometime after some of the other things I showed you, where you can actually save a template and then use and reuse it later on. So for now, we'll go ahead and put a landing page name and campaign name. You can update title, which is up here, description, which is what you see when you hover over the top. We provide CNAME support. And so with this, it can look like it's hosted on any subdomain and domain as long as the person who owns that domain sets a few settings up. You can update favicon, font family, a few other kind of minor experience options. And then over here, you can put in custom CSS and HTML. You can put in Google Analytics. You can put in Facebook remarketing, Google Tag Manager, you know, whatever you want. And if you don't want it to be indexed and affect SEO, you can make adjustments on that front as well. And then we get down to the components. So we'll go ahead and build our landing page. We'll put in a nav bar, maybe a hero image, a product carousel. How about a capture form, a YouTube video, and a footer. So with what we've built so far, we have kind of this standard landing page skeleton in place. It's all desktop mobile responsive, so you can toggle to mobile mode and see what it looks like. From here, you would be able to drag and drop your components. So maybe you want the lead capture form to be below the hero image, so that updates in real time. And just to save time, I'm not going to upload the images, but you can upload images, change text, do whatever you want. For now, I'm just going to update the required fields. So we have a lot of advanced stylings in here that you can choose from. One other story is we actually had Maven. So people in the pub world know those people. And so they moved to us from Saros, if you can believe it. So, they just raised $100 million, and yet they're perfectly happy using our software. So I don't know what that tells you, but I like it. Let's see, from there, I think we've filled in all of our different required fields. So we'll go ahead and click confirm. And we have built out a desktop and mobile responsive landing page. So we've got that in place. In terms of forward looking on landing pages, I'm not going to go ahead and show you V2, but just know it's going to be very cool. But in the grand scheme of things, where we do want to go is a tighter connection between Airtory's ad side and the landing page side, where hypothetically you'd be able to create a parent campaign with multiple ads and even multiple assets for those ads, and drive it to a landing page where you have a component which is the specific interaction or outcome goal. So you have a KPI on the landing page, and for us, as we continue to grow, we want to hire data scientists, we want to have multivariate optimization in place. And so if you say, I want to collect email addresses, or I want to have this video get watched, or whatever you want, we want to be able to run through a lot of different cycles. And since we have the ad and the landing page, we have all of that data flowing through our servers all the time. So one other, any questions on the landing page builder before I go to the white label thing, because it seems like we have time for that too.
Yeah, if I missed it, forgive me, but I just want to make sure I understand. You were talking about the integration there, but as far as like assets and tying things together and similar So let me not ask 3 questions in one sentence. So if I upload assets to build an ad, can I use those same assets to create a landing page, or do I have to upload them separate?
Interesting question. Ashwin?
Yeah, so we have an internal file manager that in which you can reuse the assets as long as the dimensions are matching.
Yeah, so so I think what we haven't really talked about it, but the file manager probably needs to be revamped a little bit too. So especially for some of the kind of more enterprise functions, but that's not a heavy lift really. But good question.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking, right, if you have an ad that's leading to, right, I may very well want to use the same
Yeah.
creative. And then some of what you showed on the ad side as far as analytics, is
Yep.
it safe to assume something similar here on the landing page side?
Yep. Good point. So we actually sent out this email campaign. Let me see here. I'll go ahead and do last 30 days. And so we sent this out talking about our white label offering, which is timely because I'll be talking about that in a second. And you can see total in lifetime. So total is based off the timestamp, number of click-throughs, total time spent, average time spent. You can look at different interaction stats. So you'd be able to see how many people clicked out and what they were clicking on, different things like that. We collect UTM parameters. We didn't pass any through, but you can do that. And we also have a click heat map. So you can see where people were clicking and scrolling and everything like that. And all of this can be downloaded as a report.
Got it. And I was actually thinking about, from a landing page perspective, that it could be very useful for things like, sponsored / branded content. But somebody asked a question that's a good question. Are the components CSS customizable so that it can really look,
I think global settings are, but Ashwin, do you have a better answer on that?
Yeah, so we have a wide range of customizable options available within the settings itself, where you can like pretty much change it to like whatever the form factor you want it to look like. But in case if you want to upload a custom CSS, we have the option to do that as well.
Right, and Ashwin, that would just be in the global site tag section, correct?
Yes, that's right.
okay. That was going to be my question, is it something that we have to work with you guys on, or is it in the UI? So, okay. And then a couple of questions that came in, and this one follows up, I think, from my question. Can you only access the landing page by clicking on an ad? And I think I kind of spun us down that path because I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, not the case. You can use it for social, you can use it for email, you can use it for whatever you want. You can text it to someone and tell them happy birthday.
Great. And then again, a clarifying point, there was a mention of an email there. We just wanted to make sure that the landing pages wouldn't be used as email ads. It was more about the email being sent to drive people to that landing page.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, perfect.
This is I keep saying this, but obviously we have a long roadmap, but conceptually a lot of what we have, at least the stuff that's not interactive, conceptually could be used in the email template builder too. So that's like not as core to our mission, but that's a place that eventually we could plan on moving into. And I think we have a good foundation for that.
Okay. I know, so we're getting a little close on time here, and I want to make sure we have time to kind of give a full wrap and talk a little bit about business model and how, if people buy one or if they buy 3, that sort of thing. But if you want to hit on the white label real quick.
Sure. So with white label, we have kind of 2 tiers. The first tier allows you to have a white label of the studio, so it can be set up with a preview URL that's on your own subdomain and domain with your own branding on it. If you think back to the Airtory studio preview, so it's going to be ads.yourdomain.com with the rest of the string with your color scheme and your logo on it. And you also can have a white label version of the studio that's iframed into either iframed in or on a modal. And then the last piece of white labeling is on landing pages. You can have unlimited landing pages with your domain for your own brand marketing. And so, that can be something where you're driving traffic to it. That can be something used for pitches. That can be used for case studies. And the last piece to show you is one thing that I really like that we added in is we have this creative component template or creative component on the landing page. So this is me pulling in ads that we've created in Airtory Studio. So you can use this to send to potential customers or after a meeting or anything else. And they can play around with it. They can point their phone at the screen and open up the ad. You can use it for case studies again, press releases, for more multimedia, whatever you want. And then the upgrade, so that's a certain cost per month. And then the upgrade from there is to be able to have access to the Airtory API as well. And that's what we have. Thank you everyone for the time. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, so I think, again, not speaking specifically the cost, but how does the cost model work for the 3 tools?
Sure. So as I mentioned, Airtory on its own is free, and we have a CPM charge, and we provide volume discounts on that. Landing page builder, you can either purchase one-off landing pages, or we have a subscription price that allows you to have unlimited landing pages. And there's a small serving fee associated with those landing pages as well.
Julian, can you just repeat that last 10 seconds? You're cutting in and out a little bit.
Oh, weird. Okay. So Airtory Studio, standard CPM with no cost. White labeling is a certain subscription cost per month. All of our subscriptions are annual contracts, but it's not upfront payment. It's paid monthly. Advanced API white labeling is also a monthly subscription. Landing pages, you either can buy them one-off or you can buy unlimited. And the unlimited still has a slight CPM charge with it, just to cover the cost. And then Self-Serve Plus is subscription plus a CPM charge on any ads that we're serving. So if you're using us just for Self-Serve Plus and you're using a competitor, we don't charge you for those impressions because we don't incur any cost on it.
Got it. So I can buy any one of them. I can buy multiple of them. I can buy all of them.
Yeah, and certainly we're open to packaging them together and providing discounts too. If people are just like, buy all of it, that's great. We can make a deal.
Okay. Anybody have any final questions? I feel like we've covered a lot here today. Okay, well, let's call it then. So thanks for joining, and thanks to the gentleman from Airtory, right, taking us through their products. So we will get the video posted to Beeler.Tech in the First Impressions library. If you don't have access to the First Impressions library yet, you can go to Beeler.Tech, click on Publishers. Please use your business email because as we're doing more membership things, we need to know who people are. I did include Julian's email a little bit further up in the thread, but I'm going to drop it in the chat again right now. And then I think that covers us. So guys, thank you very much. I hope everybody feels smarter.
Thank you, everyone. We appreciate your time. Thanks for listening, Rob.
Yep. Have a great day. Take care.